Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. I thought we'd have a look at the suggestions past the developers for the July 2025 area, and we had a look at all the ground stuff last week, so let's have a look at the air stuff this week. This time we have some really cool aircraft, including one which I would love to see in the game when it comes to America. There's many American vehicles that were made either during the end of the war or the early war or even after the war, which we haven't got yet, and they're just really interesting designs, and this one is no different. As always, if you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe and also like the video. Let's get started. The first vehicle is the Fisher P-75A Eagle. The development of the Fisher P-75 fighter began in September 1942, when the Fisher Body Division of General Motors responded to a US Army Air Force's requirement for a high-performance interceptor with exceptional climb capability. At the time, GM was providing manufacturing support for Grumman aircraft, and Fisher Body, best known for its automotive background and production of Sherman tanks, aimed to contribute to the war effort with an original aircraft powered by the ambitious Allison V4320 engine. Lacking experience in aviation design, Fisher recruited Donovan R. Berlin, the renowned Curtiss designer, responsible for the P-36 and also P-40. In September 1942, Berlin's team submitted a proposal for a large, single-seat fighter that combined major components for existing aircraft: inverted gull wing panels from the P-51 Mustang, a tail assembly from the Douglas SPD Dauntless, and landing gear from the Vought F4U Corsair, and also a layout inspired by the Bell P-39 Aerocobra, with the engine mounted behind the cockpit. Contra-rotating propellers were driven via long extension shafts, and the armament would consist of 4 50-caliber machine guns with 300 rounds per gun in the nose and 6 additional guns in the wings, each with 235 rounds, plus underwing hardpoints for 2 500-pounds. By reusing proven components, Fisher hoped to accelerate development and achieve production readiness within 6 months. After reviewing the proposal, the Army awarded a contract in October 1942 for 2 XP-75 prototypes, with delivery of the first aircraft expected in May of 1943. The XP-75 would be the first aircraft to use the complex V3420 engine, rated at 2,600 horsepower and mounted centrally in the fuselage. Performance estimates projected a top speed of 440 miles per hour at 20,000 feet, a climb rate of 5,600 feet per minute, and a service ceiling of 38,000 feet. During the early design phase, the P-40 Warhawk wing panels were temporarily substituted for the intended P-51 components. In the spring of 1943, the initial mock-up underwent inspection, retaining the P-40 wings. As the design matured, strategic priorities shifted, and by the summer of 1943, the Army's focus had moved towards long-range escort fighters rather than interceptors. Consequently, the program was modified to include 6 XP-75A aircraft with increased internal fuel capacity and upgraded 2,885 horsepower V3420-23 engines intended for extended range missions. A definitive production contract was signed on the 1st of October 1943. And by the end of September 43, only the first 2 XP-75s were complete, with the first XP-75A configured for escort missions following in December. That July, the Army had issued a letter of intent of 2,500 production P-75A aircraft pending successful test performance. The first 2 XP-75 prototypes were assembled in Detroit, while all subsequent aircraft were slated for production at Fisher's plant in Cleveland, Ohio. The XP-75 flew for the first time on the 17th of November 1943, followed soon after by the second prototype. Test flights quickly revealed serious design flaws. The aircraft exhibited longitudinal instability caused by a miscalculated center of gravity, excessive aileron forces at high speeds that hampered roll performance, and also unpredictable spin recovery. Engine problems further complicated testing, including power loss and inadequate cooling. With production deadlines looming, Fisher's engineers had to implement urgent modifications. A series of improvements were introduced into the XP-75As to address these issues. The ailerons were enlarged and fitted with hydraulic assistance, improving roll response. The tail received a dorsal extension and also a small ventral fin to enhance spin stability. The canopy was replaced with a bubble design to improve visibility, and the nose was lengthened to rebalance the center of gravity. These and other adjustments were incorporated in time for the production of the first P-75A airframe. The first P-75A flew in February 1944, but the program suffered a tragedy on the 8th of April when the third aircraft crashed, likely due to unauthorized low-altitude aerobatics, killing the pilot. Despite this tragedy, testing continued, though the Army's reliance on existing long-range fighters like the P-38, 47, and 51 had by then rendered the P-75 less relevant. Engineering revisions also caused significant cost overruns, leading the Army to reduce its order to just 25 production aircraft. Performance trials resumed in June 44. One aircraft, the XP-75A serial 44-32161, reached 418 miles per hour at 21,600 feet and a climb rate of 2,990 feet per minute. Still, its engine was likely underperforming at just 2,210 horsepower, and the aircraft's empty weight had increased by over 1,300 pounds, adversely affecting its flight characteristics. The first production P-75A was rolled out on September 15, 1944, and began flight testing soon after. It featured redesigned tail surfaces, blunt wingtips, new ailerons, and a ventral fin, and also a bubble canopy. Many of the improvements already tested on the XP-75As. 2 more production aircraft were sent to Eglin Field for tactical suitability trials. On the 10th of October, one of these aircraft crashed during testing, killing the pilot. Further speed trials showed that the aircraft failed to meet guaranteed performance by as much as 30 miles per hour, and an experimental intercooler was installed on one of the aircraft to improve the power output. But by then, it was too late to influence the Army's decision. Recognizing that the P-38, the P-47, and also the P-51 had already exceeded operational needs, the Army cancelled all further P-75A production on the 6th of October 1944. The cancellation capped the program at 20 aircraft, of which only 5 were actually completed, and a 6th was delivered in incomplete condition to be used as a spare kit. The completed aircraft were relegated to experimental work, including drag reduction and propeller tests, before the program was terminated on the 8th of November 1944. Following Japan's surrender, most remaining P-75s were scrapped. One aircraft, 44-44551, was retained by Allison for engine tests but was never flown. The final completed P-75A, serial 44-44553, survived and is now preserved in non-flying condition at the National Museum of the United States Air Force in Dayton, Ohio. It underwent a full restoration in 2008, and in total, Fisher produced 2 XP-75s, 6 XP-75As, and 6 P-75As. Although the Fisher P-75A program ended in a cancellation, it represented a determined effort by a company with no prior experience in aircraft design. The engineers of Fisher faced development challenges and shifting military requirements, yet they made rapid progress compared to many other experimental designs by reputable aeronautical firms. Despite its flaws, the P-75 was a bold attempt to create a powerful, quickly produced interceptor using innovative construction methods and also parts commonality. Had the original requirement for a fast-climbing fighter remained unchanged, the P-75A might have seen limited production and service during the Second World War. Thus, ultimately, the P-75A was Fisher's first and also last aircraft designed and also assembled. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.